Hello, you are with the professor and Lucas, and we are at the last podcast of 2020 for No Prize Podcast. Welcome. How are you, Lucas?
Hey!
We made it. We made it.
We made it to the end of 2020. The odds were against us, but we made it. We did every single episode this year, and we made it. My
Uh,
goodness. How are you doing, man?
man, it's been interesting, man. The last couple of weeks, we've had some COVID scares, and my brother got COVID, my nephew got COVID.
Oof.
They didn't get too sick, but it was scary there for a little bit. They know exactly what they did because we're all like we're all smart, we wear our masks and everything, but then you do that one stupid thing and you get it and you're like, man, I know exactly where I got it. It was that one stupid thing I did, you know. So it was, and that's a danger, man. That's why this thing's so contagious. So, but
Yeah, people are
and
thinking, yeah, I could just go out for this one event. Yeah,
yeah,
but
exactly.
when you're at that event for more than 15 to 20 minutes and you're around all those freaking people, then that's cat. You're
Yep,
you're putting everybody's at risk, man.
that's
People don't get
it's
it.
it's nuts. So it's like I don't even go outside, wear your mask. Go anywhere with people that you don't see every day, wear a mask.
Or
So
just don't go see them. Just don't go see them.
chalk it up, man.
Yeah,
The vaccine's right around the corner.
yeah,
We'll be
yeah, exactly. It's just we're just there, man. Freaking just hold on just for a little bit more. People aren't that important, man. We can learn a new skill, learn how to freaking do some yard, read some comic books. Come on now, people.
uh,
We got all the freaking streaming joints plus and Disney Plus. You
and
know,
Disney Plus. Well, let's talk about Disney Plus. We had a huge investor convention last week, where I mean, I think one of the quotes. I'm going to quote not the investors, but one of the presidents of Disney or something said, "It's not about quality. It's about no. It's not about quantity. It's about quality." And I was like, no way. It's totally about quantity.
Uh,
With all the announcements that came out from Marvel and for Star Wars, eh, you know, people have been dumping their $10 a month into Disney Plus for nothing really for the last year and a half, and now it's gonna all pay off. It's totally worth it. It's worth it for Mandalorian.
yeah,
I totally would have paid $10 a month for that for 8 episodes of Mandalorian. Um, but yeah, we got WandaVision coming out in just a couple of weeks, and
yeah.
that's just going to be kicking off the MCU again. And we've gone since Avengers Endgame. We haven't had anything, right? So
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting ride with that whole WandaVision thing because we can already see the strings kind of coming together of how they're going to go forward with the rest of the MCU, but it's kind of going to be filtered through that whole WandaVision, right? So a actor or actress, I forget who it was, let a little birdie loose. A couple of days ago that hey, the WandaVision show is going to be based off of two books. And number one is that it's going to be based off of the Tom King's run Vision, and that's where Vision and the rest of his whole family was kind of built off because he wanted to fill humanity. And then the other one is House of M, and that's big, right? Because the House of M, that was where she said no more mutants, right? Well,
mhm.
what you could do is show that she said no more mutants, and then of course you could bring them back, and that freaking leads into your X-Men coming back into the MCU. So I would like to see that. I would really, really love to see it. And then the other thing for One Division that we're expecting is Monica Rambeau. We know that's going to happen because we've seen her in the trailer.
Yep.
Um, and then the other one is Agatha Harkness. People aren't freaking checking that. They don't know that she is a big part of the Marvel universe. Um, and then there's also the thing that Agatha Harkness also has raised one of Wolverine's daughters, Rien. That's the newest one that she has the claws, but she also has magical abilities. So there's all types of possibilities that they can do with WandaVision, and I just cannot wait.
There's there are so many corners that they've untapped in the MCU, and everybody thinks after 25 movies that a lot of the filmable stuff for the MCU has been tapped. But really, I mean, we're getting Fantastic Four and X-Men. Well, eventually X-Men. They didn't announce anything, but I get into these debates with my son over what all these announcements for the new Spider-Man movie, with like so much casting news where they're bringing back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and the rumors now on Willem Dafoe and Thomas Hayden Church, and basically anybody that's ever been in a Spider-Man movie is has been recast into this one. And my son is like, hey, how the heck do you do the movie now with all these characters? And basically the only way you can do it, and I don't know if I brought this up on the last podcast, but they're cameos, right? They're Stan Lee cameos. They're going to pop in for 30 seconds, and there's going to be some scene, because we know that Benedict Cumberbatch is coming as Doctor Strange, and this movie is going to tie into the Mouth of Madness, as well as Doctor Strange is tying into the WandaVision series too. And there's going to be Doctor Strange is going to be opening portals to other dimensions at this point, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to have Tom Holland Spider-Man swinging from dimension to dimension, and he'll be web swinging through. And this is where you're going to see, Tobey Maguire fighting Willem Dafoe or something like that, and exactly. then he'll swing right through another portal, and it'll be Andrew Garfield fighting Jamie Foxx, and then that's this is the only way it's going to work, right?
Yeah. Well, not necessarily, right? So the big thing that they pushed in the last year in 2020 was an interesting thing. It was called the Order of the Web, right? So every single person, every good person that's been a spider person, as part of this whole Order of the Web, that's Miles Morales, Peter Parker's, Madam Web, which we've already had rumors. Actually, not rumors, but confirmed that she's supposed to show up in a Spider flick or a series at some point. Silk, she's supposed to definitely be in this thing somehow. And I forget the name of the other ones. And then you've got Doc Ock, right? Doc Ock was also a superior Spider-Man. He was a part of this web order Spider-Man. And guess what? He's Spider-Man, so that would be lovely. What I would like to see them introduce is some type of the Inheritors, which is those vampires that go after those people in the Orders of the Web. I would like to see them kind of show up and go after those guys, and that would make it interesting, because then you're introducing the whole thing of the Spider Avatars, right? Which is even a higher hierarchical thing. I would love if we can see that, man. But we'll see. We'll see what they got going on.
Wouldn't that be more fitting for a Spider-Verse sequel? Like, I know that because they're doing a Spider-Verse sequel, the Inheritors would probably be better off in that realm, because I don't want this movie becoming too much like Spider-Verse, where you have all the many versions of Spider-Man all teaming up together. I think leave that in the cartoon universe. Even though you could probably have Tom Holland web swing through that universe, but leave it, and have a separate existence. But yeah, I think that's the way they're going to go, because in that, if you have Holland swinging through dimensions, right, that's where you can bring in you can reintroduce Ryan Reynolds Deadpool into that, have him swing through, and then maybe you have Deadpool actually notice him swinging through, and that'll be the breaking the fourth wall kind of thing. And then that's how you bring him and the X-Men and all that stuff into Marvel Universe. And that's how you also can bring in the Fantastic Four, because it's all these dimensions that are going to be coming together as one. And I think that's my loose interpretation of what I actually think they're going to do, but we're speculating anyway. So, well, what else do you think? The casting for She-Hulk that happened? So that was I mean, I think that was a great cast. She was in oh man, I can't remember what she was in. She was just in some series that I just watched. Oh, the Perry Mason. She was in Perry Mason.
Okay.
And there was another one she was on that she was the main character. I can't remember. It was a BBC show.
was it because I know at one point it was announced that that lady from that Orphan show
That's it.
was
That
it,
Orphan
it
Black.
was
Yeah,
okay,
that's yeah,
Orphan Black, right?
yeah. The main
Okay,
character from that show is the girl that's going to be She-Hulk, and I wish I could remember
okay,
her name.
yeah. It doesn't matter. We'll see how it works out. But there was that, and then it was confirmed on Riri from Ironheart.
Hmm.
That's going to be interesting because, of course, we got to have an Iron Man at some point. So
Well,
everybody was kind of thinking that, hey, maybe first we are going to have the hologram of Tony, but apparently that's not true. We're going to have Riri coming out first, which makes it going to be interesting because they also discuss Armor Wars.
we bring
Um,
it back to on Cheadle.
yeah.
That's the thing, and with Star Wars too, with these announcements from Disney Plus, because they're not announcing new series. It's like they're announcing new like event series. Like so, it's they're like mini series, maybe 6 or 7 episodes, but one and done, right?
Hmm.
So that to me is actually pretty cool because you can get your point across in a mini series where maybe you're paying Don Cheadle what you would pay him to be in a movie shooting 6 hours of a TV show, but
Mm.
you keep it tight, right? We see how tight works in like Mandalorian, where you have those tiny 8 episode series, and you have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then the next series is going to be something completely different. So that's what I think. I think Disney is really kind of doing the right thing here. I think they've learned how to do it right. Where maybe you're not necessarily throwing all this stuff on the big screen, but you're doing stuff in the smaller of like event driven, maybe introducing plot lines or introducing gimmicks, that you're going to use in the movies, but kind of maybe farming it, you know,
Yeah.
kind of farming it a little bit. Um, and maybe post you're not going to see Falcon and Winter Soldier in another big screen movie, but now they've come home to have a home on Disney Plus, and that
Yes.
to me is something that is super interesting, and
Right.
I want to see that kind of play out.
Well, I tell you what, man. So for those who weren't reading in 2020, um, there was a Winter Soldier Falcon series out there, and
Yeah.
they did introduce several characters in that, to include a kid called, was he called? No, he was called the Natural, who was a big bad guy villain, and then there was also a new Madam Hydra that was introduced in there, and she's like a little kid and everything. So it would be interesting if they have enough huevos, or enough eggs to go ahead and put some of those characters that were in the series in there, because if they do, if all of a sudden you see characters that are in there, they were just put in the series from like the last 2 years, then you need to freaking start running to your comic book shop and start buying up all that stuff, because that puts the speculation on high for a lot of all this stuff. Just
Yeah.
saying.
I'm still waiting for them to do what I've called for like 5 years now, is actually creating a hero for the MCU and then transplanting it into the comics, kind of like a reverse, like a Jimmy Olsen thing. Like how
Yeah,
Jimmy Olsen first appeared on the radio show, and then they started throwing him in the comic. I need to I
right.
need to see that. I need to see that happen. Like they introduce a hero in a movie, and then he gets his own book.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
see what happens.
it's kind of akin to, and I know this is a Marvel show, but it's kind of akin to what's going on in DC right now. They've got that Wonder Woman who they announced that, hey, she's already got her own CW show, yet we still haven't seen her in a book yet. So
That's news to me. The new one, the one for the Wonder Woman that's not even out yet.
yeah, the one from Brazil.
Really? They they
Yeah,
they gave
she's
her
done.
her own TV show before her first appearance in the comic.
Yep.
Holy crap! Okay, so well maybe DC's kind of they're experimenting. They're always
They're
trying
playing
to
with
do different
fire.
stuff.
They're
Yeah.
playing with fire because
They're-
they
well,
well, because the problem is that you got all these other characters for Wonder Woman, they that are recent, right? That are new, brand new Wonder Woman, like the little toy. little girl, and all these other joints that they just brought up, including this other African American woman who's out there running around with some of these weapons that were meant for the gods, right? So I was like, okay, I had been thinking, yes, at some point she's going to be the new Wonder Woman or whatever. But instead of going that route, they're like, no, let's freaking go a totally different route and build this other one. Hey, let's give her a show while we're on the way. So it was mind bending.
Wow.
But back to Marvel.
Back before you tune out, back to Marvel. So we got a few books to talk about for the end of the year. I mean, this is our last podcast, so what I want to do is maybe talk about a few books that came out this week, and then maybe get your choice maybe for book of the year. Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
So yeah, so let's jump into Fantastic Four. This is called Borrowed Armor. It's written by Dan Slott, artists R.B. Silva, Juanan Ramirez, and Z Carlos, with colors by Chris O'Halloran and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. And this guy is the busiest guy in Marvel. So this is a continuation of the storyline that started a couple of months ago, and so with Franklin using the last of his godlike cosmic powers, created this forever gate, basically, that is allowing creatures from all over the universe to just kind of come to Earth. And as soon as they open the gate, there is a flood of weird aliens coming through, to the point that the Fantastic Four are very, very quickly overwhelmed, even though they have the extra dimensional space in their Yancey Street headquarters. It is overflowing. And the one of the cool things I can initially tell you about the art is I don't think you go through a page or a panel in this comic without having some weird alien drawn in the background. And I thought that was hilarious. And that was one of the things that just reminded me of how much I love Fantastic Four, is just because its whole cosmicness and just like almost to the level of weird that they have in this book. And it's something that's really kind of been missing, and I see this in Fantastic Four, and I see the way that they try to handle it, right? There's a page, I think maybe page 3 or something, where one of the Mr. Scheckerberg, one of the Fantastic Four's neighbors, is complaining about just the vast amount of alien creatures that are just kind of walking the streets. And Reed reminds him that they're refugees from war-torn worlds, and Mr. Scheckerberg says, "Oh, why don't you say so? We're all refugees at some point."
He says, "Yeah, that's perfectly fine, except for there's just so many of them." It's like backward. It's kind of like a weird racist thing. Hey, this is a land of freaking opportunity and immigrants, but there's just so many of them. I don't know why. And they're not even bothering you, man.
But I mean, it was one of those moments that really, it kind of like almost echoes what the Americans have been going through for the last several years, and like just kind of the attitudes, where, hey, there's we'll take it, we'll take them, we'll take everybody, but everybody, you know what I mean? But this book really is very interesting. I really liked they always managed to create drama within the family. In this issue, basically dealing with Franklin, who has become depowered. Right, he's used up all the rest of his cosmic powers in the last adventure. So now he's a normal human, and we found out last issue that he wasn't a mutant anymore. and so he was kind of kicked off of Krakoa. He couldn't go there anymore. So now he is feeling very much how I feel. A lot of teenagers feel, right? They feel like they don't belong anywhere, and I like that kind of dimension to it. They bring back the Future Foundation in this issue, which, if you don't remember from several years ago, was basically all these kids that the Fantastic Four had taken in. With it was Franklin and Valeria, and then they had the wizard's son, whatever his name was, I think Bentley, and then Dragon Man was the teacher, and then you had a bunch of other characters mixed in. But they have to bring these guys back because that's where the villain is from, and this is called the Griever. And she and all these aliens that are coming through the Forever Gate are running from the Griever.
Yeah.
And we've met the Griever before in the Pages of Future Foundation, but they kind of have the Bentley and Valeria kind of have this exposition where they kind of explain where they had seen Griever before, and how Griever destroyed the Molecule Man, and how Franklin could never even beat her with his cosmic powers. So how the heck are they going to beat her now? So she comes through as soon as when she finds out that Franklin is no longer God powered. She comes immediately through the Forever Gate and just starts fighting everybody. But Franklin, who had been given Reed's Iron Man armor made by Tony Stark, so he looks like an Iron Man that joins the Fantastic Four. But so Franklin tricks the Griever into chasing him, and then tricks her into following him into the Yancey Street headquarters, where Reed promptly folds the dimension back upon itself, and first of all gets rid of all the aliens, right?
Right.
Because all the aliens were staying in the Yancey Street, but now the whole building is gone, and you think everything is cool, wrapped up in a nice little package, until Griever pops out of the little folding apartment and now is going to destroy everybody. To be continued. So I thought this book was like basically wall-to-wall action. There was a lot happening in every page. Like I told you, I love the fact that there are aliens in every page. It feels like Fantastic Four. I think Dan Slott has been doing generally a really good job since he came on board. He's had some hits and misses, but I feel like they're treading new ground now. I think Dan Slott's really kind of hit his pace on Fantastic Four. I like the fact that it looks like they're going to be bringing in Silver Surfer. He appears in one of the pages when Reed reaches out to him. And I love, because Dan Slott used to write Silver Surfer too, so he writes a good Silver Surfer. And just the fact that there's this one line where Silver Surfer says, "Since we last met, I have doubled back through time and have lived through the duration of the universe twice."
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah. So
ew. Okay. So, it's interesting what they're doing. I think this has been one of the stronger books this year. So, for me, this is a flame on. I'm glad we have a rating system for the Fantastic Four for this Fantastic Four book, but this is a flame on for me. What did you think?
absolutely flame on, and you brought up some really good points. Point number one is that the aliens were coming out of nowhere. They were fleeing this big existential threat. They claimed that the threat was the Griever. That's for what they know, but we already know that there's another threat out there that people have been fleeing, and that's Null as well. So that's what I was wondering. So he puts them all inside the big Yancey Street freaking building, and then disappears the freaking thing to some type of world that Silver Surfer knows of, and he's been putting people. So I would like to see which world that is, because there's been a few worlds that I've been tracking that he's been in and out of, to include that Fortnite world. So I'm wondering if that was where they went for just a little bit. Number two is that Perpetua. Excuse me, the Griever, who's been going from world to world, and supposedly she's this whole entropy thing, right? It's going to be. Let's see. I have it somewhere here, but yeah, she's supposedly the living embodiment of entropy, right? Of destruction and the death of the universe. So she's supposed to be one of the last beings that's out there at the end of the universe, and so you got to kind of wonder what she's got and why she wants Franklin Richard. That's going to be an interesting thing to watch. And then you mentioned the armor. That was another thing. Say, okay, I can't use my powers. I have no more powers, but guess what? I've got this big old freaking suit that I can wear. That's going to be an interesting thing to see going forward as well. And that's going to be more interesting for the parents because you don't want to see your kid get hurt. But guess what? I can fly this droid of a suit around and freaking help you guys out. So that's going to be interesting. And then one of the things, the other interesting thing was, and I think people don't realize how big this is this whole deal, right? So he's got this new type of suit or whatever, and she calls it, "Hey, that's new. Is it an antimatter field?" And he doesn't answer her.
Yeah,
He doesn't answer her.
of
He
course
says,
not.
"Oh," he says, it's a notion I had for restraining terrorists." He doesn't say whether it's an antimatter field or not. He just says, "Oh, it's some notion I had to do this," right? But he doesn't answer. And the reason why that caught my eye is because I've seen these color schemes before, and that color scheme was for Mr. Negative, right? Mr.
Yeah,
Negative taps into the negative zone, and he also sometimes taps into the dark force dimension, right? So I think we need to keep an eye on that whole deal. Because lately, a lot of these writers, such as Mr. Slott, Al Ewing, and Donny Cates, have been freaking trying to tell us that this is coming. Um, they've been trying to introduce it, but I think we're still missing it. So they're like, oh, they just totally missed it. So let's pull back a little bit and slowly freaking tell the story. But that's out there right now. But once again, yeah, you hit it right on the nose, man. Rican, you didn't miss. Everything in here was interesting. It's a lot of little nuggets. I'm wondering if there's any little special aliens that will come back and make the Fantastic Four thing more interesting. But right now, it was a great freaking way to end their year. Flame on.
yeah. It was great. All right, let's take a quick break, and we will be back with the rest of the reviews for this final No Prize of the Year.
Let me ask you a question. Are you wanting to read a new comic book that has nothing to do with the big two? Are you tired of looking through countless titles and have no idea where to begin? Well, don't you worry, because the Random Dude Josh and Johnny the Machine Hughes has the podcast for you. Flipside Focus, only on the Undercover Capes Podcast Network.
And we're back. How was your break?
As much as I could get in, run, take care of freaking the body business and drink and do whatever you can. You got to freaking stretch. Do it as much as you can. Everybody, remember, stretching is important and key, such as napping.
All right,
Hydration.
so let's jump into to X Force number 15, I believe. Take us through this. This is the first X Force post Swords, X of Swords. So I was interested in finding out what they were going to do to follow up from X of Swords, and if there was going to be any kind of lasting ramifications from that storyline into the the mutant books as a whole. So what's going on? What's going on in X Force this month?
So absolutely. So in X Force number 15, written by Benjamin Piercy, art by Joshua Cassera, color art by Guru FX, letter by VC's Joe Caramanga, production Corbett T, and design Tom Mueller. I've never thought that I would see books where the design of the book would get so much credit, but hey, you gotta admit it. They've been trying to throw this stuff together. And they've got a definite look to all these X books. So to give more context to what's kind of going on in this book is that you got to remember that at some point Krakoa got attacked. Not by the Krakoa, which was the bold big of X of Swords thing that just happened. They just freaking skipped over that and went to the whole X of Swords. But there was this whole thing where there were these Russian agents, maybe, or they were like assassins or whatever. They just dropped out the sky, and they had all this intelligence about the island. And they immediately looked at the one Russian guy that was on the island. They said, "Hey, freaking Colossus, do you know anything?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know anything. I was just farming potatoes over here. Freaking, I don't know what's going on. you know. So they're like, hey man, we gotta check. Is like, well, do what you gotta do, and of course, the weird thing that's been happening is Beast, right? He looks like a beast, and everybody's been kind of treating him like a beast, and he's got this whole kind of cocky attitude. So people haven't been loving him lately. But he was the first one. Hey, let's look at Colossus, right? So they did the mind meld search on freaking Colossus, and they came up clean, right? Okay, we don't know who it is, but apparently they found out who it is, and I'll let you talk to if you want to talk to that. But there is this whole dynamic of once that type of thing happens, once that big type of thing, big attack, I mean, and they got swapped, right? You start to look at internally on what the issues are. You looked internally to hey, you look to your person to the left or right, and all of a sudden you don't trust them, right? Because you don't want to lose out on this thing that you just had because somebody can't keep their mouth shut. Um, the and once again, the another thing was Wolverine. Wolverine, he just wants to hack and slash, but he freaking can at the moment. Um, the whole thing about the vampires, right? That was a whole storyline almost 2 years ago, I think, right? With Dracula coming out, and then the vampire just being loose along the whole freaking Marvel universe.
Yeah.
That went quick, and then everybody forgot about it. Well, they brought that kind of storyline back into this thing. Like, hey, remember this thing that happened? Well, there's something happening with that again. And now there's this whole thing of some of those many angled ones, those gods that was supposed to be a whole big thing, that I've been harping on. Like, hey, there's these gods, there's like these little demigods, gods that's been running around, and the above place and the below place and these other freaking dimensions that are running around, and they've been pushing the X-Men and the mutants all in all types ways in order to bring themselves back. So that came to head right now. Again, I forget the name of that god that showed up in this issue, but yeah, that's definitely happening. So for me, I love the dialogue. I love what was happening. I love what they're pushing toward the future. For me, I think it's a flame on. And this is Benjamin Percy. This is the first time that I'm seeing, or I can remember that he wrote something, right? Then I've been paying attention to who's writing what, but I think he did an excellent job with this issue. What did you think, Professor?
So you'll have to color me a little bit confused over some of the characterization and what's going on in the books, because first of all, you've had X of Swords just take everybody out of this equation for the last couple of months, and when I said ramifications of X of Swords, there hasn't been any in any of the mutant books. It's just that was something that happened last month, and now we're on this month. And then, so the first thing, and you touched on it, was the characterization of the Beast, and they definitely are doing something with him, where he's actually acting more sinister, almost like Dark Beast, and where he's not really caring about the ramifications of his experimentation on certain things. If you notice at the end of this issue, he actually kills Omega Red. And they, just like, well, whatever, we'll bring them back.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but it's, to me, I was like, what? That's not heroic. That's not, that's not the Beast that I have been reading for 50 years. This is different, and he's acting very strange. Which he wanted the Omega Red's carbonadium synthesizer, and brings the plans of it to Forge, and says, hey, create this, but make some changes to it. And to me, that's so that he can reinstall it into Omega Red, so that he can control him. And that whole thing is just strange to me. I don't know what they're doing.
I think I know what they're doing. So there was a storyline, I forget how long ago. Actually, it was back in 2011. I'm looking at my notes. And new X-Men 151 through, say, 154, 155. There was a Here Comes Tomorrow storyline, in which he was acting exactly like this. He was just this whack off freaking weirdo who was experimenting on everything. Because hey, the end what justifies the means. And it got so bad that he was killing several mutants just so he could build his own little phoenix um, deal. And so once again, he didn't care about the ethics. He didn't care about anything else. He was just like, "Hey, freaking let's get to the freaking end because I've got places to be and stuff to do." And that's the beast that this reminds me of.
Yeah, I I just don't like. I don't know where they're going with it, and I don't remember seeing the Beast acting like this before, like in previous stories since House of X. But it just seems off to me. But and then of course of course Colossus, who is almost going the other way, right? Where Colossus is actually doesn't want to fight anymore. He's I guess living in the Savage Land, which makes me kind of question all of that. So I don't know if maybe because I don't did either of these guys get killed off in House of X and brought back? Were they part of that strike
No.
team that went to the sun?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
So that I don't know. So I don't know if it's like they're dying and being brought back and something's off about them. But it's to me, it's I don't know if it's just mischaracterization, then whatever. I don't think it is. I think it's storyline driven. But it's what makes me think is that they almost have to do this because of the way that the mutants just are now, where they're all living together in harmony. So you have to kind of create drama where you can, and like, but there's really kind of no such thing as a mutant villain anymore. They're all the same. With the exception of Sabretooth or now Omega Red, because he's a vampire, but so is Jubilee, right? Or she was. I don't know. But the ending of this book, we have all these plant creatures coming up from the bottom of the ocean and attacking Black Tom and Domino. I mean, it seems like it's going to be interesting, and this is another thing that has been plaguing the X-Men since House of X is all of these outside threats that are coming almost like they are invaders. It's not like they're enemies or mutant threats. It's just that they're other countries invading invading Krakoa, or some other creature, whatever this you said, this godlike thing that's living in the ocean that is now sending all these underwater zombies to attack Krakoa now. So I don't, it's convoluted. And the other thing that I don't know, who's the team? What's the team? The X-Force team is it Beast, Wolverine, Marvel Girl, Forge, and Colossus? I don't know who the team is, and that's another thing that's plaguing all of these X-Men books is I don't know who belongs to what book. I don't. Is it just like whoever they decide to put in that month? Is it like a rotating membership? Is it? What is it? This is what, and I mean, I kind of get it with New Mutants, and I also kind of get it with. I think X Factor has kind of like a set lineup. Marauders has a set lineup, but I don't think X Force does. I think.
I thought they did, but they weren't in this book. That's the weird thing. I forget. They were mutants that I haven't really been tracking as far as caring about them, but they did this one thing and they're like, okay, that's what their thing is. This is what their mission in life is supposed to be. They're supposed to be the ones that prioritize who gets resurrected first, right? They track down who died and whether they actually died, and then they prioritize who gets resurrected first. So of course that brings into a whole weird thing is, okay, if you got these zombies running around on the island, are they really dead? You know, do you have to resurrect them because they've already been resurrected as zombies? So what do you do?
Right.
I don't know if that's the direction that they're holding, but this would have been a better thing for their Marvel zombie freaking series that they just had a couple months ago.
Right.
Lord have mercy, Marvel. And then why did you have to kill the dog? Come on now, Rufus. Why
Oh,
the
it's
dog?
okay. They can bring him back. Oh wait, no, he's not a
He-
mutant. Is he a
he's
mutant
not
dog?
mutant. I don't know. Are there mutant dogs? Are there mutant animals?
There must be.
I need answers. I need answers.
So okay, so bottom line, this book is a bit of a stretch. I mean, it was kind of a fun read. It's just there's so much. There's so many things that they just kind of plow through. They ask a lot of questions, but don't really give you a lot of answers. And that to me is a really kind of makes me think that they don't really know where they're going. It's kind of like do you ever watch Lost? Did you watch Lost when it was on
Yes, I
TV?
did.
That show was the total ship adrift at sea without a captain for like 6 seasons. They didn't know where they were going with it, and they didn't know how it was going to end. So, you know, that this book seems that's what this book seems to me is it's like, okay, just write what you think is cool. Don't worry about an end game. But all these concepts that Hickman came up with, where on the face of it, they're really cool and they're going to create drama down the road. Because you can see all the problems that are going to stem from what they're doing. I just think it's taking too long to get there, and they're asking more questions along the way or new concepts without having to resolve like. I mean, the glaring one is the we can just resurrect any mutant. There's definitely ramifications from that where we're just not seeing the end game yet. But it's been a year and a half anyway, and we've seen a couple of things, but we haven't seen what their end plan is. And I mean, I just think at this point there are so many mutants running around that it's affecting my ability to care for the book.
Damn. Tell us how you really feel. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I forget the name of the other X book that I read this week where they were supposedly in some weird class and everything. It was the one with Ahmal Farouk and Shadow King. I forget which book that was, or was that from last week?
No, that was from this
Um,
week. That was the other
uh,
mutant book that came
yeah,
out.
yeah, what book was that? I forget what book was that, but yeah, it was like okay, now they want to turn their attention to all these other
Yeah,
mutants that are out there, and it's
it
like
was
okay,
it was New Mutants. By the way.
yeah. So the problem with that is you got all these new mutants and everything with powers and everything and personalities that I really don't care. I was like, oh okay, Shadow King, and he's going to do bad things to these young mutants. Once again, I don't care. You
Yeah,
had full opportunity during the whole Exosaurus books to somehow drip and drop some of these mutants in there, and you didn't do it.
mhm.
Right? I understand they're trying to keep it tight, but you could have gave them a panel or two, freaking or something, because what do you do with the young people that don't have any skills? You make them security guards, you make them stand at the freaking gates, make sure nothing, and they didn't even do that. So I don't know, man. Let's see where they're going with it.
All right. So let's put X Force to bed for the year, and we'll jump into Iron Man #4, with Chris Cantwell as the writer. Artist is Cafu. I don't know if that's initials or something, but that's the name, Cafu. One name, like a diva. Color artist is Frank D'Armata. Letterers, hey, VC's Joe Carabagna. Um, so this, Iron Man goes off in so many different directions all the time. It's kind of tough to keep everything straight, but I'll try to keep you up here. So we have Korvac, the cosmic menace that you might remember from old 70s Avengers stories, who really totally destroyed the Avengers, and then erased their memories. It brought them back to life and then erased their memories so that they would never remember that Korvac destroyed them all. And the only person that ever remembers his Moondragon until this issue where Hellcat says something about it, and you're like, hey, how did everybody know that? I guess that everybody knows now that Korvac killed them all. So I think that was just a mistake. But anyway, Korvac is back. The confusing thing about Korvac, right, is because he first appeared in the Guardians of the Galaxy story and was like, and I'm talking the old Guardians, which is like the year 3000 or whatever. So he's a futuristic villain, but here in the Avengers, he was living in the 1970s America, and but he had teleported himself back from the future. Here he is reborn in an android body, and he has gone about trying to regain the measure of cosmic power that he had before. So he's recruited a weird selection of former Iron Man villains, Blizzard and the Controller and the Unicorn, to help him regain the cosmic power. And it's interesting how this plays out, because Korvac has always been a galactic level threat on par with Thanos, and here he is much less powerful so far,
Right.
but he's trying to regain the powers.
Well,
Here we
what you got to remember is that this one is a new Korvac. This one is the Atom 4 Korvac, right? He he was brought about by the Three, right, which was this new group that was brought about in Marvel Comics 1000. So this is not your granddaddy's Korvac. This is a new guy. And this is a guy that I guess is trying to go along the same lines that you of the gentleman of the old Korvac that you brought up. So we just got to remember that.
Oh, well, if he's a separate character, then they probably should have told everybody. Maybe they did in the first issue, and I just missed it.
Yeah,
But
they let's see, when did they mention it? I think they did mention it in Marvel. Maybe Marvel Comics number 1000. And he's not just a human. He's not just whatever. He's some type of synthetic type of freaking human. So he's able to freaking ingest all this electricity that's going with this whole crazy storyline that they've been going on.
all right, hands
Yeah.
raised if anybody remembers anything that happened in Marvel Comics 1000. Not me.
I do, and only because I have. Every time I turn around, I'm like, "Who is that?" And then I keep going back. And it was like, "What? What was? How many pages was that thing? Like 120 pages?"
It was too many.
And the reason why I suggest people keep going back and reading that thing is because all of those newly released or newly announcements, there's a character in some of those in Marvel Comics 1000 that correlates what's going on with that. So all we need now is like the Dark Hawk and the Eternity Mask to show up. That's it, and we're good.
Darkhawk and who?
The Eternity Mask. Oh, and
Right.
and Night Thrasher.
Oh, I can't wait for Night Thrasher to come back. All right. Anyhow. So, hey, you know what? Maybe he comes back in the pages of this storyline because Tony teams up with Hellcat.
Oh, that's how you want to call it now? Teams up? Is that the new term, Daddy-O?
It's a hookup.
They
It's a
team up?
hookup team up. It's a hookup team up. And
They decided to Disney Plus and chill. That's what it was. What it did.
there you go. So Tony's idea to defeat Korvac because so what you would tell me if this is a new guy, apparently he has all of the old Korvac's memories because Iron Man says they can't attack him with the Avengers or the X-Men or the Fantastic Four because Korvac is familiar with all of them. So Tony has to put a team of heroes no one's ever heard of or heroes on the downside of their careers. So of course Hellcat and he starts to put together a team, and he runs into this guy called Halcyon, and I've I've never heard of him, but apparently, you know, I don't know if he's appeared before. You would know better than me. But then Hellcat gets taken over by a newly repowered Korvac, and Halcyon kind of takes her out with a fire hydrant and a deflected water off of a hubcap.
Right.
And Tony says, put your name on this list. So now Halcyon's working with Tony. Who knows if Hellcat's going to continue to work with them now that she's been taken over from Korvac, or if she's been compromised. But one of my issue, that's how this issue ends. Is Tony is going to have to recruit a team. We don't know who that team is yet, but I imagine we'll find out next issue. And I imagine they're going to be pulling random, D-man level D-list of heroes out of the ether. One of the things that I didn't like about this issue is the fact that Patsy Walker Hellcat looks exactly like Pepper. And I actually, for my first read through of this comic, I missed that he called her Patsy, and I thought it was Pepper almost the entire issue. And then I had to go back, and I was like, "Oh wait, this fucking Hellcat." Excuse my swearing, but
it's a female drawing issue with some of these artists. Like, if you've got the same type of hair, they draw you exactly with the same body type and the same hairstyle. I almost thought she was Mary Jane for something.
Yeah, well, and that runs into when Fantastic Four earlier when we were talking about that. Sue looks exactly like Valeria, and you could draw either one of them. And there was a scene where Sue was talking to Franklin. I thought the entire time I thought it was Valeria until they got to the point where she was actually acting more like his mom, and I was like, oh wait, that's Sue. And I was like, dude, can you at least maybe dye Valeria's hair like you did Franklin, so that I can tell the difference between the two of them. But anyway, I digress. So this storyline is actually decent. I like. I'm not really a big fan of talking head books, which is basically most of the time this is just a talking head book. But I like where it's going. I kind of, I do like Tony Stark. I like Chris Campbell's take on him. I don't really like the pairing with Hellcat because it almost seems like every time you get a new writer, Tony has to get a new girlfriend. If that,
they literally in the same series just had him break up with Wasps, right?
Yeah, right. So and how long were they together? Not
long. That was for the duration of the last volume.
Yeah, of Dan Slott's run. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I don't like. I maybe just because I was confused about the Korvac thing. Maybe I kind of feel like they should have been more clear on that. They do a lot of explaining away a lot of stuff in this issue. Like I said, talking head book. They could have mentioned something about, my previous, iteration, but just the way Patsy and Tony are talking about, about how Korvac has beaten them before and how they can't attack him with the Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four. Even if we know that it's not the same Korvac, they don't know that. So, maybe a little bit more of an explanation is needed on the reader's part to be able to put two and two together.
Right.
But the art's really, really good. So I really enjoy that. The colors are good. The inking is good. Where Korvac absorbs all the electricity, that full page panel spread is really, I think, the highlight of the issue. It's about I really like the just the colors and the drama of it. You can actually see how much pain he's in as an android. But anyhow, I really like this issue. I'm going to flame it on, and I think it's a good ending for 2020. I think.
Absolutely. Once again, you've hit all the great points that everybody needs to know going forward. However, there was a bit of a little, like you said, they weren't clear about some things, right? There's a bit of trickery going on, and it was very on purpose. So, for instance, this guy, that's Korvac, Adam iteration number 4, that people need to understand. So, Adam 1 was him.
Yeah.
You got to understand that. And then, the other ones. And then Adam 4, he was built up by the 3. And then there's possibilities that from what we saw from Marvel Comics that there's going to be an Adam 5 that's going to be coming along pretty soon. A big part of his whole mission was that he's just trying to make it to the TAA2, which is Galactus' ship, where he hopes to be just go into the gestation cycle and then eventually become a demigod again. And it doesn't say why he wants that whole thing. He just wants that whole power back. Good on him. Whatever. Go ahead, do you. But the interesting thing in this dialogue that I'm showing right here is that he's gone blah 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 limitless capacitance. In other words, I am the light of the world.
That was the other thing I wanted to bring up, is that they're really making Korvac kind of like the Messiah, kind of like almost like a Jesus character. Even Blizzard calls him Lord.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And then there's a big thing where they show him being attached to this.
That's
to
the
a
highlight
cross.
of the issue for me.
Yeah,
Yep.
the cross, which of course is that whole big Messiah thing. Now, either you're going along that thinking, or you're remembering that a whole big person that we're missing right now is the God of Light, right? Which is another reference to the Messiah and all that other stuff, but it's supposed to be the opposite of Null, who is the God of Dark, right? So we're supposed to think, okay, this is going to be the guy that saves us all or not. But if you've been reading all these Marvel comic books, that's not true, because there's all these other gods of light that are building up and they're freaking being built. And they're just marching to the beat, going at this whole thing. And then once again, was talking about, hey, his first appearance. This is his first appearance where he's being built by the 3 Marvel Comics number 1000. And like I've told people to pick this up at a certain price point, and people still haven't been picking this up. But of course, the big book was the D23 Expo that only a few people could catch. But yeah, definitely, I love this freaking book. I loved it for what it was. I think the whole Black Cat freaking love thing was kind of cheesy. Say, come on, y'all.
Hellcat, not Black
yeah.
Cat.
Oh, excuse me. Well, yeah, Hellcat. It's like, y'all can't work together without freaking doing a whole Netflix and chill thing. Like, come on, man. Freaking, there's really no reason for that. But apparently she's got the whole Scar thing. That's going to be interesting thing. And then he was pushing power through her and everything. So I'm wondering if that's going to be a new thing, because she was endowed with the power of electricity for a little bit. I'm wondering if that's going to be a whole thing. I would like to see that continue. But yeah, that freaking great freaking issue. Finally built some more excitement toward it. And I freaking loved it. So wait. Oh yeah. So that's all 3 books that we reviewed this week for me. Was the Flame On, which is a woo for me, man.
Let's okay. So we do have just a couple of minutes left. I just want to say what for this entire year, and I know that this has been a COVID interrupted. We didn't get all the books we were supposed to. It's been kind of chaotic on books disappearing, books appearing, books being interrupted in the middle of their runs, and just a basic overall confusion of this whole COVID environment. But if we were to say 2020, what is your Marvel book of the year? And you don't have to say what specific story, but the title, maybe the most consistent title in an inconsistent year.
Okay. Well, let's rewind it back a little bit. I think this was in 2018, maybe early 2019. Avengers No Road Home. Nyx, who was this new god that they built, freaking came to Olympia, destroyed all the gods, and after that, the gods recycled into something new. The gods freaking came back, and they decided to destroy all of the Marvel universe that's just out there. They were going from planet to planet, destroying all these little aliens and everything. They never really gave a reason why, but they say, hey, we're just going to destroy all these little alien things. And then let me skip you this, and then this is going to be my title of the year. And as much as I love Hulk, as much as I love the direction of all these other books, and the Exorcist and everything, I'm loving what's going on with the Guardians of the Galaxy, because once again, the great thing about those characters is they could split them up into different areas, and they're showing what's really going on and what's going on in the background. Whole thing with Peter Quill, they actually went back into his past. They showed what was going on with his gun. Apparently, his gun was called the Elemental Gun, blah blah, and that was great. I think it was this issue was from last week. He was shooting it at the Olympus gods as they're doing the whole thing. I didn't know that a regular guy can just freaking go against Olympic gods, but hey, here we are. He shot him at the guns, and he doesn't just freaking shoot them; he actually drains their energy, and then he sets off this freaking bomb. Well, he gets transported to this other universe, and that universe is on the back of a turtle. Hey, weird, but hey, I'm rolling with you. And it turns out that universe is actually called the Purple Dimension, right? I've got a whole thing on it, and I probably 2021 I'll bring that whole PowerPoint up and we can talk to it. It's pretty long because Al Ewing, he's going a bit some old Marvel stuff, and he's bringing it back and he's trying to make it relevant again. And while he's there, the Purple Dimension, he meets these two beings. They're cool with them. He's cool with them. Freaking, they become this whole trio, and they do their whole thing. And what's interesting about the Purple Dimension is he spends 144 years in Purple Dimension years in this whole thing. Before he realizes how to get back, and the reason why he has to get back is because he's been using the elemental gun this whole time, and then he shoots one charge, and all of a sudden, all the Olympic gods come back. So there's some other interesting things about it. So, for instance, if you see at the bottom left, they're escorting these characters out there, just called the Birdmen of Akamat. I'm not going to talk to their whole deal, but it's a really interesting story of Oster and one of the gods of Storm and her ancestors going on. But the one really interesting thing is the toothbrush, right? That toothbrush, which means that whole Purple Dimension is actually kind of in that whole microverse dimension, right? So they're not just in the Purple Dimension; they're in the microverse dimension, which of course would bring up my whole speculation that at some points they're trying to bring back that whole Micronauts, freaking cosmic thing, Captain Universe, and I know that's going to happen because once again, Marvel Comics 1000, they've been beating that drum like, hey, we got to bring this back and everything. Let's see, I'm trying to go forward to so they bring back, so the guys come out and everything, and then they're attacking the Purple Dimension, everybody he loves. So he figures that, hey, I got to get back. He figures out how to do it. Now here's what you got to pay attention to, right? This is one of the pages of Guardians of the Galaxy number 9, and that image was actually upside down. So I think a lot of people actually missed it, right? And then the dialogue that corresponds to it was, hey, do not fear for your reason, Peter. It's too late for that. I have made you a Star-Lord. You are master of the sun and thus master of the solar system. Once again, this is that foolery that's been going around of, hey, this person can be the god of light. This person can be the god of light. But this whole thing is even more interesting because that little image that's above him, and once again, this image was upside down, so people missed it, is the master of the sun, right? But now this person is saying the master of the sun is Peter Quill, which is interesting because Marvel Preview number 2, which was the first appearance of Peter Quill, the person that freaking talks to him and freaking brings him out and freaking saves him is the Master of the Sun. So what you're now saying is the guy that made Peter Quill is Peter Quill. People missing. That guy that made Peter Quill is Peter Quill going back in time to make Peter Quill, Master of the Sun. So that's why this is my book of 2020. Yeah.
Maybe we should bring our buddy Steve back onto the podcast and have him tell us. Did you always mean that for that? The guy on the throne, was that Peter? Oh, maybe we'll ask him. Wow, that's really deep. That is really a lot to absorb. My favorite book of the year was another Al Ewing book, was Immortal Hulk, and the reason I love Immortal Hulk is just its clarity of purpose for the entire year. It's really kind of just been plodding along, doing it what it does, and we know that with the storylines coming to an end next year, but I rarely I have not seen a book that hasn't had a misstep, like a gigantic mess up, or to make it unreadable. But I mean, the constant with you have Al Ewing writing, and with a few exceptions, you have got Bennett on art consistently, and the story's just been so at times, most of the time, a horror, but also they do throw some superhero stuff in there. But for me, that book has just been so consistently good and readable, and one of those I can't wait for the next issue books. And it's so rare in 2020 to get a book that hasn't really had a misstep. So that's my book of the year. And I mean, ever since issue 1, and that issue 1 is now 2 years old. So to have a run for over 2 years, that's really, I think, untouched in Marvel, even through House of X and all that stuff, where you've seen that you have your lovers of that and your haters. But I think Immortal Hulk has been the book to it's been gold standard for me.
Absolutely.
So that's my book of the year, and surprise. So I guess maybe Al Ewing is Marvel's writer of the year too, if
Right. Well, I mean, Donny Cates would have been the writer of the year before that. Now Al Ewing's definitely freaking take it over. So there is a lot of big surprises about what's going on for it. So I can't wait to see what 2021 is gonna have to hold. So we'll see.
All right. So that's going to do it for this issue of No Prize Podcast. I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we will be back shortly after New Year's to kick off 2021. So until then, stay safe. I can't wait to not have to say that anymore. We're all going to, get your vaccines and, get everybody back to normal as fast as possible. So we will see you in 2021.
And that one is